tuned into the hottest paranormal life show on YouTube, Into the Fringe, where we discuss lost civilizations, UFOs, cryptids, unsolved mysteries, megalithic structures, extraterrestrials, interdimensional portals, time skips, and more. Don't change that channel, because now you are leaving the mainstream and entering into the fringe.
Greetings, followers. It is I, Cardinal Sin, and welcome to another episode of Into the Fringe. And tonight we have a special guest, Mr. Gary Ambrosia. You know him as one of our very own, arguably the most obnoxious toxic male on the panel on Pop Culture Breakdown with Dictor Van Doomcock. But he's been seen on both the small and the big screen, on both sides of the camera, as an actor, director, set designer, props master, documentarian, collector, and his knowledge and expertise of the movie industry is surmounted only by his ego. Welcome back, my friend Gary Ambrosia, to Into the Fringe.
Oh, thanks, Cardinal Sin. Hail to you. Hail to everybody in the chat. And thanks for having me.
Good to have you. This is going to be a really great show. I just wanted to let folks know my camera died, so this is kind of as good as it gets. But I think we're going to have a great show anyway. We have some really interesting stuff to discuss. Let's go ahead, and while we're waiting for folks to roll in, we will talk to some folks who are here and say hello to Phantom Boomer, who says El Segundo. And of course, you are here. Ari is here. Hello. Skokely Yotun is here. Cheers. And Antiderivative Jill is here. And we have a very special giveaway tonight. Instead of giving away an Into the Fringe t-shirt, we're going to be giving away one of these, which is what was found in one of the Mayan ruins, I think, and then was made out of gold originally, and in Gold of the Gods, I think, by Eric von Daniken.
Yeah, something Chariots of the Gods or something.
They made a life-size glider out of one of those, and it actually flew.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I'll throw both of them in.
Cool. So
yeah.
One of our lucky winners will walk away with two of those little glider models. And we do thank you for that. I also want to say hello to Darius Munchausen, Zach Price, and we will let other people roll in. And like I said, we do have a really cool show tonight. I'm really excited about this. We're going to talk about some experiences, Gary, that you've had throughout your life, and also when you were in Rachel, Nevada, where the little alien is located. What would you like to start with?
Let's see. Well, do we start at the young age, or let's start at the when I was young. We can start with those instances. So the first incident I remember happening to me was when I was 6 years old. At the time, I lived with my mother in Southern California, and my father lived here in Monterey, and I would visit him during the summertime. And I used to sleep in like a fold-out bed in the living room. And one night I was sleeping, and I remember having this dream, and the dream was that I was instantly lifted away from my body and shooting straight up into the sky beyond the atmosphere of the earth. And I saw the earth below me, sort of like, hovering over it. And I saw it explode, and it was destroyed. And I mean, it was devastating to me. And then instantly I started falling right back toward it. And that's when I woke up, and I was terrified. And as I woke up, I sat up, and at that moment I felt something. It felt like what was a nail dig into my back and make a scratch. And I instantly jumped up from my bed and ran into my dad's room, and I was in a complete panic. That was very disturbing to me. That was the first real disturbing incident I remember from when I was a kid.
Is that the one with the nightmare?
Yeah, that's correct.
Can you go into detail and tell us what the nightmare was about?
Well, really, it was pretty simple. It didn't last for very long. Like I had said, I sort of rose out of my body, and I could see everything below. And as I was rising up, I rose outside of the atmosphere of Earth, and I was watching Earth sort of get smaller and smaller below me. And as I was watching Earth, as I got far enough away, I saw it explode. And after it exploded, I was just totally shocked and started screaming. And I fell back toward what would be the explosion, and that's when I woke up. Interesting. When you're 6 years old, I don't know if that's something that you really understand, but it was a very disturbing and vivid dream for me at 6.
Yeah, something that I wanted to mention was, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but abductees often report when they're aboard a craft that they're shown usually what they interpret to be a holographic display of the end of the world, usually a nuclear holocaust, and then they're told by the aliens that you have to go back among your people and you have to warn them, not to fool around with nuclear weapons because these are, really serious. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting. Okay. Well, that, like I said, that was the first incident I had when I was 6. Let me look at my notes here. Let's see. So this one's pretty creepy. So about when I was 14 years old, we lived in a place called Pebble Beach, way up in the top hills in the forest in Pebble Beach. And the area was very secluded. There's no lights anywhere. It's a pitch black roads. Nobody has their lights on at night. It's really, if you didn't have a car or a flashlight or anything, you could see every star in the sky. It was quite amazing. It really was not very difficult to sleep there. It's very quiet, very peaceful, very, very dark. And I remember, again, I was about 14 years old. I woke up from just being asleep, and I was woken up by the bed consistently moving like this. And it felt kind of like there was a little kid on the edge of the bed jumping on it, or an animal on it, or something, like a dog or something. I didn't have a dog. I certainly didn't have a child. So after, sort of in that in-between state where you're completely awake and completely asleep, a little bit, drowsy, but I got this really, really awful feeling. I didn't want to look at the end of the bed. I just wanted to go back to sleep and hope to God that it went away. Well, I looked, and I saw what appeared to me to be a really creepy looking dark silhouette of a figure, sort of leaning over, staring right at me and shaking the bed while he was staring at me. And this figure had some kind of hat on, and as soon as I saw it, I just went right back to sleep because I was sort of shocked, and I had the feeling I was dreaming, but I was hoping to God that I was dreaming. But that was really disturbing to me. But the most disturbing part was, I watched this documentary probably about, 2 years ago, where other people, and a lot of other people, had claimed that they saw the same thing happen to them. There was this kind of silhouette of a guy with a hat, and he would just kind of stare at you in your room, and it was always in between that asleep and awake kind of, subconsciousness, that people would wake up and see this thing. And that really disturbed me. So the story was definitely an investment of disturbance, because it wasn't until I was 40 years old that I saw that documentary. I was like, oh my God, I've seen the thing that they're all talking about.
other people see this too.
Yeah.
And what color were its eyes?
As far as I remember them being red but bright. But again, it was kind of just a glance skill, because as soon as I saw it, I'm like, nah, fuck this.
I don't want to see this anymore.
I don't want to look at it anymore. So that was definitely the reaction that I had. I wasn't interested in capturing a lifelong memory.
Right. Yeah.
But that's what I remember, and I believe that they said that might have been something that they saw too, was red eyes. So that was very disturbing for me, more so just a couple years ago rather than when I first saw it.
Yeah, that's a fairly common experience. I mean, as you say, they've made a documentary about it. So
yes, which was shocking to me.
That's probably pretty terrifying, no matter what age you are.
Yes. I mean, when you're young, you're told by your parents, this is a fever dream, or you were sick, or
right.
You ate something bad.
No such thing as monsters.
Exactly, that kind of thing. There's more of gravy than a grave about you, as Charles Dickens once said.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, very terrifying. The next incident was a year later, when I was 15, and my friends and I, there's this old house in our hometown here in Monterey. There's a lot of old houses here. They're all kind of old Victorian homes, and it's like super stereotypical spooky house from classic literature and television and film. And some of these houses are so fascinating. They're gorgeous, but some of them are just creepy and abandoned. And it's always interesting when you're a kid. You always want to go check these kind of things out. Well, one night on Halloween, we all got together. We weren't trick-or-treating anymore. We were kind of too old for that. So we're like, hey, let's go over and try to break into this old abandoned house. Let's check it out.
Okay, and what kind of house is this?
It's an old Victorian type house. It can be seen on a map on the corner of Hoffman and Archer in Monterey, California.
Okay.
It's I think it's about 150-year-old. It's probably about a 200-year-old house, maybe. Mm-hmm. Somewhere around there, late 1800s, I think, something like that.
And this was abandoned?
As far as we knew, it was. Yeah. I mean, okay. There's no lights on. There's never anybody there, and
right.
It probably hadn't sold for a while or something. But so we're running around and acting like idiots, and trying to find a way in. We're trying to open the basement door, and we're trying to we're scaring ourselves and stuff like that. And I remember my buddy trying to open the front door, right? I mean, like straight up breaking and entering, right?
Right.
And my buddy David and I, we're kind of chicken shit, and we're hanging back, and we're like, I don't want to do this. This is, I'm good just standing right here. I'm good. We're kind of chickening out. And I'm looking, we're probably about, 10 feet away from the wall of the house. And as you look straight up, it's got one of those sort of octagonal sort of corner towers, like a classic Victorian home would. And it's got windows all around the octagonal tower on the second story. And as I look up, I see this man looking down at us through the window. And I lost my shit. I was mortified. And I'm standing right next to my friend David, and I grab him, and David's concentrating on not getting caught. He's looking around for police and things like that.
Sure.
And I look at David and I grab him. I'm like, dude, look. And I point up to the window, and he's trying to dismiss me. He's like, shut up. And I watch him look up the window, and he's just like, oh my God, he freaks out, loses his mind, starts screaming. His face went white. I mean, it was totally chilling to see that he was seeing the same thing that I saw. And what was really weird was we got a pretty decent glimpse at it.
Now, and for people that are going, okay, this is a totally abandoned house. It's dark outside. Can you tell us a little bit about how you could see what was inside the window there?
Light reflection from street lights and things like that. There's still a little bit of light. I mean, the house, what I mean by the house is dark is there are no, electrical lights on, there's nobody living in this place. There hasn't been for a long time. So there's no actual light source coming from this house. That's why we assumed it was abandoned, because we never saw anybody go in or out of there. You know what I mean? But I mean, you can see, slight reflections of things. And as I looked straight up, there's a person in that window. I know what a person looks like. Human beings need very little pixels of information in order to register what a human figure looks like.
Right.
And we see things out of the corner of our eye that look like people all the time. But when you turn and look at them, it's obviously not there. We could clearly see that there was a shape of a human being looking at us through this window.
Could you tell if it was a male or a female?
It was a man. It was a man. Again, it had a hat on. It looked. It just. I instantly got the imagination, or I got the image in my mind that this was some guy that from a time not of ours. Where he was dressed like It felt clothing. It felt like I was looking at something at Disneyland. That's the closest thing I can describe it to, is looking at something like that.
A window into the past.
What was interesting was I was like holding him by the shoulders because I'm forcing him to look at this thing, and we step back and it's not there. It's almost like, that's what we thought, it was a light reflection, and we're just like, what the, it was bizarre. We took off running.
I bet.
We took off running because as soon as I saw that he saw it, I thought it was me. I was a timid, kind of an awkward kid, and I was easily spooked, and I could have seen a number of different things 100 times when I thought I saw a ghost, but this was somebody we were looking directly at it for at least 10 seconds. We could see what it was, and we bolted. I mean, for all we know, there could have been somebody.
Is a homeless person staying there?
If it was, he was pretty well dressed. I don't know.
This was somebody in Victorian clothing, right?
I have that's what I would guess, because you could kind of see like the silhouette of a coat with a collar and a top hat. I don't know, man. Anyway, that was when I was 15. That was at least there was a witness for that one. I felt better about that, because sharing a horrifying experience is sharing.
It's always better with a friend.
Exactly. Let's see. Okay, so when I was 23 years old, I was in England, United Kingdom, and I was visiting the Tower of London. And there, throughout the tour, I don't know if anybody's ever been there. It's not quite like a historical tour here in the United States. It's very morbid and graphic and gothic. And as you walk into these rooms, they kind of show you, things that people used to be actually tortured with, and where people were chained and mauled, and they would give you these stories about what happened in this very room. Well, I walked into one of these rooms during the tour, and
and let's just set the scene. Were you with your family? Were you with friends?
I was with two friends of mine. I was visiting two friends, and one of them was actually with me in that room while it happened, and she was witness to it as well. I walked into this room and I couldn't breathe. It was like there was no air in the room to inhale in my lungs. I started suffocating. It felt like my lungs were being collapsed, and the only thing I could do was run out of the room. I thought that there was something wrong with the room, so I ran out, and my friend followed me, and she's like, "Are you all right?" And as soon as I walked out of the room, I could breathe.
Wow.
And yeah, I didn't go back into the room. I don't remember going back in the room, but somebody later on told me that room was where Henry VIII had murdered several of his wives. So it
tons
makes
of
sense.
people on top of that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But more, a couple of the four more famous murders were definitely the wives of the king. But that was bizarre. Also, the building that we were staying in. Oh, I have another story. I don't think I told you this one, Gil. I was the building that we were staying in was about 400 years old, and it was sort of like a little Airbnb type place. It was a bed and breakfast type place, where it was a little cottage with a kitchenette and a bedroom and an office. And I was washing the dishes in the kitchenette, and there was a little brass decorative frog on the windowsill right in front of the kitchen, and it fell into the sink. And I put back up, and it fell off again. And I picked it up and I put it back up, and I'm watching it and it falls again. And I pick it up and I put it on the shelf and I'm sitting there staring at the thing. And a few seconds later, it just jumped right off and fell into the sink. And
weird.
That place, there was weird. There were little weird things going on. Books falling off of shelves. Like, there's seven shelves of books. The fifth shelf falls, but not the rest of them.
You mean the whole shelf?
No, there's there's individual shelves on a wall.
Oh, and
there's like 6 or 7 of them, and
there
are books on the shelves.
Mm-hmm.
And like the fifth one up from the ground, well, everything falls off of that one, but not the rest of them. Weird things like that. Just
poltergeist type stuff.
Just weird, strange things like that. That was the same trip. That's a very common thing over there. I didn't find it very common. I found it pretty disturbing. Let's see, 26 years old. I was shooting this martial arts type movie in Philippines, in an island off of the big island of Davao. It's a smaller island called Samal, the island garden city of Samal. And there was a scene where we were shooting the main characters meeting in a cemetery, and the cemetery, obviously, it's not a big budget movie. We can't go building our own cemetery, so we have to go shoot a real cemetery. And the cemetery that was there on the island, all of the tombs and sort of mausoleums were above ground because it's right on the beach. So it's like going to a beach and seeing just a ton of tombs all over the beach. So you could walk in between them. The ocean's sort of lapping in between the tombs and stuff. It's the strangest cemetery I've ever seen.
It sounds like it.
It was bizarre. It really was. It's directly on the beach. And so we're waiting for the sun to set because it takes place at night. And we have translators there because a lot of us white guys, we don't speak Tagalog or any of their other language. So I'm looking around for a place to set up, and they had warned us that that there are locals that are there visiting their loved ones, so don't disturb them. Just if they're in the way, just ask them nicely if they wouldn't mind. Yeah, that's no problem.
And you don't have a permit or anything with.
Police.
We
were permitted, but you still it's sort of it's more out of respect. You know what I mean?
It wasn't under the radar. It was just,
exactly. No, we had. Are you kidding? As soon as we got off the plane there, we had military escort.
Right.
We're white people with money. They'll grab us, and it's then
you
it's
wake
crazy.
up with your liver gone in a
you wake up at all
bathtub.
Yes, exactly. That is true. But anyway, so I'm walking through, and there was I approached a mausoleum, and there was a guy sitting on top of the mausoleum, on top of the tomb. And I was sort of startled by him, but there's people in the cemetery. It's just the way it goes. And as soon as I said, "Oh, hi," and he says, "Hello," and I'm like, "Okay, hi, we're gonna start shooting here." And as I start to explain this to him, he just gets up and walks away. I'm like, "Okay, well, that was easy." So we set up the shot. And as we're working, one of the translators comes up and she says, one of our ladies is a little upset. I said, well, okay, why is that? She said, well, there's this headstone, her father's headstone's in the shot. I said, oh, that's her father's, or her father's tomb is in the shot. She was wondering if we could tilt the camera over a little bit. And I'm like, oh, well, there was a guy there, but I just asked him to leave. And she's like, hold on a second. So she talks to this girl, and she's just burst into tears. She said there was a man. Does. Yeah, she said there was a man sitting on this tomb. I said, yeah. He said, hello. And as soon as I imitated that little voice, his distinct little hello, she just started weeping uncontrollably. And I'm like, what's going on? And that woman, the other translator, told me that's her father's headstone, or that's her father's tomb. And what she believes what you just saw was her father, because that's that was how he used to answer the door whenever people came over. Hello.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, wow, this is so weird, because, you know, he just kind of walked away, and then there was no one else in the cemetery. No one saw him leave or anything like that. But I don't know. That was a very strange incident. Not so much for me, because I didn't think at the time it was any kind of ghost. It was the reaction of the translator.
Yeah.
That was just bizarre to me. So that was kind of weird.
You know, one thing I wanted to bring up when you were talking about the Tower of London.
Yeah.
You know, I think that the oldest, and Ari can probably back me up if the Reluctant Dragon or somebody else can't, but I know that like the oldest pub in London is like 650 years old. It's a little tiny tavern, and you know, old buildings in the UK are a lot different than old buildings here in the United States, and people have brought up the concept that ghosts run out. That over here, you know, having a 400-year-old building is a pretty big deal, but they're all over the place in England, and the idea has been submitted that whatever, you know, creates a ghost or the residue of a life eventually runs out of energy, and that this has happened in England. But in the United States, we're just such a young country comparatively that they're still going, you know.
Wow. That's interesting, because where does that energy go?
It dissipates, I guess. One of the
wow.
One of the
I never even thought of that concept. That's very interesting.
Yeah, one of the theories about one kind of ghost, the kind that you see doing the same thing over and over, like a lady in white will walk down the hallway, turn left, and disappear into a wall where there used to be a door. And then that's all that you see that particular spirit or whatever does. That's called the stone tape theory. And it's based on the idea that in the quartz crystal underground, it sort of records this experience and just plays it back over and over again. And then if you have like an apparition that engages with you and you know, you get EVPs or whatever, that's like an active apparition as opposed to a passive one that might be involved with the stone tape theory. But I think the idea that ghosts can run out in a significantly older area is kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, either that or what we're seeing is, like you're saying, is some kind of weird recording, and that recording is wearing out.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I've never even heard that theory. That's wow. Because that makes sense. Sometimes, you know, the way that people describe what they see, it sounds like if you ever had an old VHS or Betamax, if you were to tape over an old show or something that you had recorded, you'd get this kind of residue of an older image over the new recording, and it's still there. It's just underneath it, you know. It's almost like data extracting from a drive. Even though you delete that data, it's still there somewhere, and people, you know, so using something, you can still reach that. So who knows what the heck we're seeing when we see these things? That's very interesting. Stone tape theory. I've never heard that. So the apart from the stuff at Rachel, Nevada, in which was when I was 30 in 2010. The other incident that happened was right here in Pacific Grove. This was really weird. This one is probably the most disturbing to me. And the reason that it's disturbing to me is because I'll just start it off by saying this. I was going through my, you know, volumes of hard drives of my own personal information, photos and videos of family and things like that. And I came across this video that was just a video of a backyard of where I used to work or where I used to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at it and I'm like, why did I shoot this? So I clicked it and played it. And there's some weird phenomenon of a weird blinking light in the sky. And as I'm watching this, I'm right at that moment, I'm remembering photographing this. And I remember I had seen something in the sky. I ran into my garage to get my, it was like one of those Nikon Coolpix type cameras that had a video recorder on it. It wasn't like an iPhone or anything. I grabbed it because it was the first thing I had. And I ran outside and I just started rolling on this thing. And I didn't know what it was. It wasn't making any sound. It's a light that was sort of blinking. It seemed like it was through the back of the cloud cover.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no explanation for it. I see aircraft traveling in the sky all the time. I know clearly what an aircraft looks like, what a common aircraft looks like, at least. And it totally baffled me. But what was disturbing to me was not only that I got this solid video of this thing, but that I didn't remember shooting it. And it just went away in the volumes of my drives. And I never mentioned a word about it to anybody.
And you totally forgot that you had it until you were going through. I
completely forgot that I had it until I was going through, just like, I mean, maybe a year and a half ago of this stuff. And it was shot in, I think the date on the file was somewhere around 2015.
We actually have just under a minute of that video here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and play that.
Go for it.
Now, one thing that I noticed there is the lights sort of look like they're simultaneous at the beginning, and then as the video progresses, you can see that the lights go out of sync with each other.
Yeah, a little bit. I wasn't paying real attention to this, obviously, when I shot it, nor did I really even remember shooting it. But as you and I are watching this video, which I hadn't seen in a long time, we're kind of able to analyze it now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bizarre. I looked at it again before I sent it to you last night, and I noticed that when the lights are blinking, you can see a slight shape in between the lights.
It looks like a disc.
But when they're off, it looks like there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that's the camera compensating for what it can't see. You know, sensors are different on cameras. They play tricks. But the weirdest thing, Gil, is this was shelved for a long time, and I never even showed it to anybody until, you know, I just started digging through it and found it. And that was, again, that's the weird thing. That's the disturbing thing to me, is why I don't remember these kind of things, you know?
Well, at least you're there, you know, getting the footage.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, it's, you know, if I captured footage of an airplane, that's okay. That's fine. But at least it's worth that embarrassment, just in case it isn't something like that. Just in case it is something that's a strange phenomenon. It's worth having that. But I don't know, man. That's kind of, this one to me is, it weirds me out a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
It weirds me out. I've shown it to, I showed it to a college professor last night, a close friend of mine, and he is like, Gary, I think that's something legitimate there. But and I trust him, you know, and I'm like, you know, tell me straight out, man, if I'm, you know, if it's an airplane or swamp gas or whatever, tell me. He's like, nah, I don't know what the heck that is. So
and where did you take that video?
That was in the backyard of a home I was living in Pacific Grove, which is right near Monterey. and that's actually it's looking out. The way I'm standing is looking out toward the ocean, like it's looking north toward San Francisco area. So that's where that is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It even looks like it's behind those clouds too. You know how you were talking about how it seems like they're kind of out of sync.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether one of them is behind some heavier cloud than another one, so maybe it's brighter. I don't know. I didn't really have time to analyze that yet. I'm going to go back over it, but to me, it looks like at some point it's kind of behind the clouds. It doesn't get any closer. It doesn't get any further away. It doesn't go left. It doesn't go right. It just kind of stays there. You know, if it was an airplane, I would imagine, okay, it's either going to change scale as coming toward you or traveling away or whatever it is, or if it's
go left or right,
sideways or whatever at an angle or something, but it's not moving in 56 seconds. So I don't know.
That's pretty weird.
Yeah, that was a weird one. But Rachel, Nevada definitely takes the cake for the weird-orama scale for me. It really does.
We have a question in the chat from Zach Price, who wants to know if we can rewatch and maybe take some slow motion parts with commentary. We don't really have the ability to do that. We'll probably come back to that chunk of.
I can always. We could do that later. Yeah, you could. I could give you that video if you want to post it as an, on your channel. You could slow it down. You could do whatever you want. Analyze all you want. It's fine with me.
Now, let's go ahead and talk about Rachel, Nevada.
Yeah.
Can we talk about what you were doing there?
Yeah. Okay. So at the time in 2010, some friends of mine were planning a movie, and we're shooting this movie, and we wanted to do a little bit of research on the subject matter, and we were all kind of UFO nuts, and guys that who doesn't love that stuff? I mean, everybody here loves that stuff. So we were really interested in that, and we all got together and said, I think we should go. Let's go to Las Vegas for the weekend. It was only a 4-hour drive from Los Angeles, and we'll, spend the night in a hotel, and then the next day we'll drive 150 miles. I think it's north or northeast or something like that, to this place called Rachel, Nevada. And the significant thing about Rachel is that it is the closest town to the gate at what people consider Area 51 that you can get. It's about 10 miles away from the front gate.
And not only is Area 51 known to be there, but the government has acknowledged it. During the Clinton administration, they did some burning in like pits, like pit burning of toxic chemicals, and servicemen and women got inhaled that and got diseases and damage, and they had to acknowledge that the base existed so that they could get healed and get their benefits and stuff.
What an interesting little loophole.
And then they moved everything to a different base, apparently. But
probably, I'd assume. Well, there's still some crazy stuff going on out there, man.
Yeah, let's hear all about it.
So back to the story. So we had heard, just doing a little research online, that in this town, there's this neat little kind of bar and restaurant, and they have these little sleeping trailers that you can rent out, and you can stay there, and it's called the Little Ailey Inn.
Sure.
And it was this cool, cute little, middle of nowhere type.
I got a postcard from there once.
Yeah, they have like 5 items on their menu. These people were so cool. The people that own the business, the people that live in this town, they were incredible. And it's like Californians, unless you leave California and you experience the rest of the United States, you don't really experience America and Americans. I've experienced it. People in the Midwest and people who are from the rest of this country, they're really, really nice, down home, genuine people,
right?
Who are very sincere people, and it was refreshing
to come to this New Yorkers or people from LA.
I've never been in New York. I can't speak for New York, but California, this place is. We won't go into it, but it's insane. But going to this place, it was great because you pull up and there's this, it's this kind of tiny, shacky little shabby type places, and they've got a tow truck out front with somebody built a UFO out of a satellite dish, and they got their signs up. They've got alien, statues and alien posters and all kinds of neat stuff everywhere. It's definitely their brand. It's their market. But you go in and you sit down at the bar and you order a burger or something, and there's memorabilia all over the place. And you'd be surprised the kind of characters that you run into that just come in and you start talking to them, and these people start telling you about all their experiences that they've had. Now, at first I wasn't really a big believer because I'm like, wow, all these people that just happen to live here and they've all had paranormal experiences. Well, this will be an interesting, adventure, so to speak. Whether they're telling me the truth or not, I don't know. But the town, as I drove around the town, I checked the whole place out. Very, very small. I want to say there was, maybe minimum 50, maximum 60 people in the town. And there were 2 minors in the town, 2 people younger 18. Than 18.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, at least there might have been 3. I think there was one 6-year-old child that a bus from Lincoln County drove 50 miles to pick this child up every morning to take him to school, drove him 50 miles to the school, drove back 50 miles, dropped the kid off, and then drove 50 miles away. That's how remote this place is. Gas is not, I don't think there's gas around for 100 miles. You're literally in the middle of nowhere when you go here, so you have to be really prepared. As I wandered around town, I noticed there was all kind of radiation detecting equipment. That was kind of bizarre. Again, you're in the middle of nowhere, and there's giant machines that constantly give you a live readout of the radiation in the area. Okay. So as we decided to rent out a couple of the bungalows there and stay there for a few days. And as we were hanging out there really isn't much to do, but other than to sit at the Little Alien and sort of just talk to the locals. And we asked them, we said, hey, would you guys mind doing some interviews on camera? We'd like to film you guys, and if you want to talk about any of your experiences. And a lot of them said no, and some of them said yes. There were a few people that had some incredible stories. Let's see. Let me start my notes here so I don't get off track. So let's see. Covered that. Let's see. Most of the town was retired military, which I found was very interesting. A lot of Air Force guys, a lot of Korea War era veterans. And that was very interesting to me. And almost all of them had a paranormal experience. Well, every one of them that we spoke to had a strange experience. There was a gentleman who was a Korea War era veteran. At the time, this was 2010, so it was probably about, I don't know, between 70 and 80. And he had explained that the incident he was involved in was he was flying a bomber. And all of a sudden, this giant light had surrounded the bomber. And he asked the pilot, can you see anything out front? Nope. Can you see anything in the rear? No. How about port and starboard? Nope, nothing. It's all bright light, blinding bright light. This thing moved in front of them and disappeared into the sky. And they landed the aircraft. And as soon as they landed, they said that these gentlemen in black suits were waiting for them at the hangar when they landed. And they were escorted into the cafeteria and sort of in a nice way, locked into the cafeteria for 3 hours while these gentlemen went all over the airplane with a fine-tooth comb. And were not allowed to leave until the gentlemen were satisfied that the plane was okay to be released. And they were told that they were not supposed to talk about what had happened. Another gentleman there who was not a veteran, I'll leave their names out just in case they don't want to be mentioned.
Sure.
But this guy apparently he was not from that area. I don't think anybody was from that area, not even remotely. I mean, it's kind of impossible. You can't be from that area because there's nothing around. But this guy had he lost his husband. His husband died of I think cancer or something like that. And he said he was really depressed, and he decided to pack up his stuff. He sold everything, and he just started driving around in a mobile home. And he didn't really know where he was going. And he traveled to a place in New Mexico, a restaurant or something like that. And it was there was a Native American gentleman who was working at this restaurant, and he left him a feather. And that feather, he brought the feather to someone else who worked at the restaurant. He's like, the guy left this. Why? The guy at the restaurant told him, that's you need to go with this gentleman and go on their reservation, and you need to see their shaman. Okay,
their shaman.
Yeah, their guy, their local guy. I don't know too much about their culture, so I'm just going to go off what he said. But so he was allowed onto their property, and he visited this shaman. He brought the feather to him, and the shaman brought him to this series of caves on their property, and he showed him on the caves there were these carvings of what looked like saucers, crafts, things in the sky, and people below. And according to the shaman, these carvings were over 3,000 years old. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. This guy's the most interesting guy. He is still out at Little Alien. You will find him if you go out there. But what happened was he said, I know you're looking for something. He laid a map out to him, and he said, I don't want you to put any thought into it. I want you to just put your finger on this map and tell me, and just that I want you to find a place on this map where you're going to go. And he's like, okay. And he just pointed there. He said he pointed directly at Rachel, Nevada. And that's how he ended up at Rachel, Nevada. That was his story of how he came there. Ever since he moved there, he relocated. He made friends with the locals. He really loved the area. He bought a house there, or he probably had a house built there. And after that, he said he really started researching paranormal activity. He said he was researching the U.S. Patent Office. He started looking at all the anti-gravity, patents that GE holds,
right?
And the kind of research that only somebody can do when they're really, when they're really engaged in weeks and weeks of that kind of activity. So, he had a lot of things to say. He went on camera with us. Some of the things he did not say. He also mentioned one of the things he did not say, he would not say on camera, was that during him and his friend he was in a room present with his friend during a remote viewing session, and they were trying to remote view what was going on at the base. And he said after the remote viewing session, the guy burst into tears, the guy who was performing the session.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to get him, he's sobbing uncontrollably. He can't really form together a sentence. And they're trying to, calm him down. They're patting him on the back and what is wrong? What is going on? What did you see? And he said the only thing that the guy did was he looked at him and he said, my God, they eat human flesh.
Wow.
Those were the first words out of his mouth, right after being taken out of that little session. So he wouldn't say that on camera. And I'm like, oh my God, I would love to have that. But he didn't. He's like, I'm not going there.
He was remote viewing the base?
I guess so. He did not go into many details about it, but I believe that was what was happening. Was his friend, he was in the room with his friend while they were performing the remote viewing session. Mm-hmm. And his friend had this strange breakdown, started sobbing uncontrollably, started having a kind of a panic attack. Him, the guy, and his other friend were trying to calm him down, and that was the first thing out of his mouth after they sort of calmed him down, and he was able to look them in the eye and say, my God, they eat human flesh.
So you're familiar with John Lear, yeah?
Yes.
So John Lear sort of came to prominence. He was the son of the guy that invented the Lear jet.
Correct.
And he had tens of thousands of flight hours, but was considered kind of kooky. he met George Knapp really early on and was pretty early into the UFO scene, and had a whole stack of papers that I think ended up being called the Lear files or something, the Lear UFO files or something like that. And according to him, several levels down in Area 51, there's a level where aliens and humans are working side by side, and then there's an area below that where it's just the aliens. And allegedly, according to these Lear documents, there are vats of blood and also human parts that are, in these see-through vats that you can see from, I guess, the elevator or whatever. There are no photographs of it or anything, but that would be in keeping with what John Lear said happens and goes on out there.
I had no idea. Lear was saying that this happened.
Yeah.
Where did he hear that?
That's a great question.
Wow, that's trippy. They have photos and autographs of Lear out at Little Alien. I think he came out there a few times.
I know that he was out at that black mailbox.
Oh yeah, that's a fun place to go to. I like that place. Because, people drop letters to the aliens in the mailbox. I love that. I didn't
know that.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Like, I mean, it's such a funny thing to do. It's kind of the kitschy tourist thing to do when you go there. You get a picture next to the mailbox, and, you drop a letter into, E.T.,
Whoever's mailbox that is must get really pissed off about that.
Oh, they're furious. They're furious, I'm sure. It's like the people at the Back to the Future McFly house. If you go to take a picture of their house, man, they come out with, like, bats and sticks, and they chase your ass down the road.
Pitchforks and torches. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, don't piss them off, But so there was, we interviewed a lot of people out there, some on camera, some off camera. But what was really distinct about it was, I asked every one of these people, how did you find this place, and why did you decide to move here?
Mm-hmm.
And to Rachel, Nevada. And they all said, well, they all had a similar story. Either they wandered into town on their way to Vegas from somewhere else. It was, it's a stopping point. It's in the middle of, between point A and point B. Here's Rachel, Nevada. They stopped. They had a burger or a beer at the Little Alien. And they looked around and they were like, we just decided we liked it here, and why not retire here? It's peaceful. It's quiet. These people are really nice. They all said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were, we just happened by this place. We just happened to pass by. We heard about it. We didn't know anything about it. We come here and all of a sudden, we just decided to buy a piece of property here because it's so cheap and it's in the middle. I'm like, okay, all right. That was the weirdest thing. And I noticed my friend in the middle of this whole situation, he starts asking people around about how he can buy a piece of property out here. And I'm like, are you really you're looking into it? He's like, yeah, why not? I mean, what if I wanted to retire out here or something? I'm like, it's not a bad idea. I mean, it's actually a pretty nice place. Why not? Okay, yeah, sure. It really was just kind of that kind of vibe. That was bizarre, but we'll get back to that later because the end of the story has something to do with that. But the distinct parallel between these folks were they were retired military, or they were a serviceman's widow, or they had family members or something. There was always some kind of connection to either military or a paranormal experience, or both. And these people were telling me any time of the day you can see, if you live here long enough, you just go outside and you walk outside, you just finished your lunch, and there's a saucer flying across the sky.
No big deal. Just another Thursday.
They're not even jazzed. They're not even fazed by it, Gil. I'm not kidding. They're like, no, I see it all the time. I'm like, oh, okay. Where you got a camera?
Tuesday.
They're like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, you got a camera? They're like, why? It's just going to be there tomorrow. I'm like, what? Okay. All right, cool. So it's funny. There's this whole kind of, hey, this is cool, but it's not that big of a deal vibe going on. and I'm feeling it. I'm like, wow, okay, all right. If it's just the way it is out here, hey, that's just how they do things in Rachel, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Cigar-shaped craft flying across, you know, the sky, you know, strange patterns in the air, but hey, no big deal. Okay, well let's have a beer. That's the general kind of attitude.
Right.
So, but there was another pattern that I noticed as well. The owner of the little alien was this very, very kind lady. She was very sweet. Everybody loves this lady. And she's totally open about this stuff. And she was saying, we bought this property years ago. And one night, this being just walked right through the door of this building. And we didn't know what to say. We didn't really know how to approach this thing. And we said, well, you obviously you aren't stopped by any locks or doorknobs. You don't need a key. So if you want a beer, there's the fridge. She said, that's how they handled it. And she said that she was told by this being that that it is they would like her to share with the world the existence of other beings from other planets, and sort of make it a positive, peaceful sort of communication to the rest of the world. And that was what they would like of her if she's going to live here. And she said, okay, well then that's it. She talked it over with her husband, said, we're never selling this place. We're going to stay here until we're not alive anymore. And that's that. This is what we're going to do. I mean, we love it here anyway. We're retired. So, according to her daughter, Disney offered them, I want to say, upwards of $11 million for this property.
Wow.
They turned it down.
No kidding.
Because of that incident. According to her, she said, we're not selling. This is our life. This is our mission. This is what we're doing. This is what we're going to do. So thanks for the offer, but no thanks. I mean, the daughter must have been furious.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
But
that's okay. They'll be back.
Oh, right. Yeah, they'll be back to acquire.
They'll probably raise the offer.
Oh man, well they'll steal it from him somehow. But that was really interesting. And let's see. Let me look back at my notes here. Let me make sure I'm catching everything.
I did want to ask you about the radiation detecting equipment.
Yeah.
And other oddities. And then you had also written down the strangest feeling best described as being in an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Okay, yeah. Now I remember where I was going. Okay, so the distinct pattern that I noticed was that the older folks, the retired folks and the older folks, had no problem sharing their stories. But as they got younger, they were less inclined to talk. One night we were invited over to, we were invited and taken in by the locals, invited over to dinner at one of our main interviewees' house, where he cooked a meal for us. And everybody from town was invited there. It was a big meal, and everybody was having a good time. We're all drinking wine, having a good time.
And in a town of 50 people, literally everybody knows everybody else.
Oh yeah, and well, everybody was pretty much there. I think there might have been 20 people there, so the rest of them were probably asleep. But really, everybody that I had met in town was there at that little dinner. So the daughter of the owner of the little alien, as we're kind of having wine and we're all kind of, we're kind of getting comfortable with each other and everything, she's like, I got lots of stories to tell you guys. They haven't told you anything yet, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, are you going to come on camera for us tomorrow? She's like, oh yeah, I'll tell you everything. Right. So this is funny, Gil. So the next morning, okay, hold on. There's one little other bit to this. So in the middle of this conversation, the guy who's cooking for us gets a phone call, and the phone call is funny. I think I can remember it verbatim. It goes like this. Hey, Sally, how you doing? Oh, okay. I'll ask him. Hey guys, Sally says there's some kind of saucer type craft above her house. You guys want to check it out? No, we're good. Now we're good. Well, try to get a picture. Okay. All right. Bye. I swear to you, Gil.
Oh, wow.
We couldn't be bothered. We're just like, we're good.
Yeah, we're having a good time.
So the next morning, the owner of the daughter of the owner of the little alien, we had set up a time. We're like, okay, about 9 o'clock. She's like, yeah, not too early. We're going to sleep in a little bit. Okay. So we go to the little alien at 9 o'clock, and there's the mom. And I'm like, oh, is so-and-so is she going to be here soon? She's like, oh no, she left 3 hours ago. She had to go into Vegas. And I'm like, She took off. Stories. No, she took off. She realized that she was, kind of drinking a little bit and saying things, and we didn't see her for the rest of the trip. Mm-hmm. She found an excuse to go.
And how much longer were you there?
We were there for a couple more days. I think we were there for a total of about 5 days. I think that was about 2 or 3 days in. It was about the middle of the stay. So, like I was saying, as they get younger, they're less and less comfortable. Now, I was saying earlier, there were 2 under 18 kids that were there in the town. One of them was a young girl, one of them was a young guy, and the young girl was just super shy, didn't want to address anybody. She was, I think she was a family member. She might have been the granddaughter of the owner. She was working at the restaurant. Didn't want to say anything. Didn't say anything to anybody. Really very timid and shy. Left her alone. The young kid though, he's probably about 16, 17. He was asking me about my camera. He liked the camera. He was really into movies. He wanted to make movies, and I know we were talking about movie soundtracks. We just got to talking about movies, and this kid loves movie soundtracks. He's like, I love Star Wars, I love Star Trek, I love Superman, I love all these great movies. I love those movies too. We just started talking about stuff, and about a day, I kept seeing this kid at the restaurant, and I'm befriending this kid, and he's a real friendly kid, and he's super interested in everything that I'm doing, and I'm trying to show him this is how you operate a camera, this is how it works, this is how you focus. I'm trying to help this kid out. Yeah, connecting with this kid. So one night we had finished dinner, and I told him I was gonna. I had my iPod with him. I was gonna loan him my iPod, and because I had all my music on the iPod and wanted him to be able to listen to it. And I was sitting with him, and I was like, he was listening to music, and I said, hey man, I said, you probably lived here your whole life, right? He's like, yeah. I said, you ever look up into the sky? You ever see anything strange? Any weird occurrences? Anything? You ever see any of this stuff like everybody says around here? The kid got real quiet. He took the earbuds off. He put the iPod down. He didn't look at me when he said this. He looked straight down the ground and he said, I haven't seen shit. And he took off running.
He yelled it like that?
He said, I haven't seen shit. Just like that. And he took off running. And my buddy was with me. He's like, what the fuck was that?
That speaks volumes.
Oh, man. It said everything I needed to know.
Yeah.
Who knows who had come by and threatened this poor kid? Who knows what had happened? Who knows what the kid saw? But my friend, I found out later, my friend had spoken to the young gal who was working at the restaurant. And she said she didn't want to come on camera, but she had seen animals turn into other animals.
What, like shape-shifting creatures?
I would assume. But that she said she saw like human beings turning into dog-like creatures. And she's like, to me, you're so young and you grow up in this environment, you don't really know how to handle that.
Right.
That's just my estimation of it.
Yeah.
But she was talking about like shapeshifters or something. I don't know. I didn't speak to her. My friend had relayed that to me right after this incident happened with the poor young kid that just got terrified. So that night, we were just hanging out. There's a little campfire area in the back where the bungalows are. We're kind of like, hanging out by the fire, and and a minivan rolls into the parking lot. And whenever anybody shows up, it's kind of a big deal because there's new people in town. It's a big deal. The restaurant's open. When somebody shows up in that town, because, for 50 miles in each direction, it's just pitch black, and you can see those headlights coming at you, 20, 30 miles away. So, this van pulled up, and there was these 3 college age, young people in the van. They were like traveling from somewhere, and they stopped off in Rachel, Nevada, and they sat next to us at the fire. They introduced themselves. It was one guy, 2 gals, and they sat by the fire. They're like, yeah, we're gonna rent a room for tonight. We've kind of been driving all day long. We're coming from wherever they were coming from, I don't remember, and they were on their way to Las Vegas or something. And they stopped, and we were hanging out and stuff, and my friend and I, we're like, hey, that the gate to the military base is only like 10 miles away. We should go at night.
Ooh, right? That's a great idea.
Oh, yeah. It was so. So like I wouldn't do this stupid ass shit now, you know. When I was young, I was like, yeah, let's go fucking, you know. Anyway, so we're like, hey,
what's the worst
that
could get happen?
Oh, it's so bad. But we invited them to come along with us. We're like, hey guys, if you get in your van after you unload your stuff, follow us down to the gate because we're gonna go over there. We got the camera and everything. And they're like, yeah, sure, it sounds like fun. So we go to the gate, like I said, it's about 10 miles away. And is this really long dirt road, and it is straight and it is flat for miles, and you can see the lights at the gate for quite a while, and more importantly, the gate can see you coming from 30 minutes away.
Oh yeah, those camo dudes have very high power binoculars.
Just being in their little, you know, they already knew we were on our way there. So we didn't give a shit.
And plus, so anyway, they can see like the dust from the vehicle.
That's why the roads are like grinded, powdery dust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why the dust is there, because you can, you know, there's no sneaking in. There's a dust cloud as you're running toward the gate. You know.
Don't they have a replica of the sign in the little alien?
I don't remember. They might have
in the
at the time
on the door that says like classified or.
Yeah, it
whatever.
says like U.S. military installation. You will be shot if you walk past this point, basically.
Yeah, something about I think it says specifically like use of deadly force authorized.
That's it. Use of deadly force authorized. Yes. Yeah. I have a reproduction of that sign. Anyway, so we park about a quarter mile from the gate. They already know we're there. Now, I'm going to stress this right now. I'm seeing people, they want to talk about their visiting. If you go there, do not mess with these people. Don't mess with the gates. Don't go up to them and touch them. Don't do anything stupid. That is a federal offense that you will not escape for the rest of your life here in the United States. Don't do it. So anyway, we all get out, and you know the college age folks are with us, and we got the camera, and we're walking toward the gate. Now, Gil, this is 2010. So this was before a certain technology had actually been, they had released that this technology existed. They did in 2012. But as we're approaching the gate, I'm starting to get really, really nervous and having a panic attack. And I look at my buddy and I'm like, are you freaking out right now? He's like, yes. This is not a guy that is prone to freaking out. This is a guy that I knew for a long time. And this guy would not freak out if, you know, this guy wouldn't freak out. So we're walking, and, you know, the college folks are behind us. You know, they're about 10, 20 feet behind us. We're walking closer and closer to the gate. The panic attack is getting worse and worse. Bill.
Oh, that's right. They use infrasound.
So I'm like, this is crazy. I was like, we got to turn around. So we turn around. The college kids are booking it to their van. They didn't say a word.
They're already running.
They're out. The van takes off, and they're gone.
Yeah.
We saw them never again. They took off. They probably went back to the little alien, got their stuff, and they're like, fuck this, we're out of here. So we walked back to the car. The panic attack stopped. And I was like, this is weird. We got to go again. We go again. Because I'm like, we got to get shots of the gate anyway. I'm shooting the gate right now. I don't care what they say. We're not anywhere near it. I'm not on the other side of it. Fuck them anyway. I don't care. Right. So I get it. I set up the camera, and I've got the tripod, right? And I'm like, thinking about it now, I mean, if they thought that was a firearm or a weapon or something, I would have been dead fucking me.
Yeah, that's why I say they have the binoculars where they can see everything you're doing.
Right. So I'm out there shooting some shots of the gate, which they're great shots. But as I got closer again, the panic attack starts. And as I walk away again, when we're done, the panic attack goes away. Later on, we found out in the 2012 Olympics that they were using a sort of sonic weapon that projects a certain frequency, which can vibrate the human brain. And actually, it's a fine-tuned adjustment to a frequency, which can induce certain human emotions depending on the frequency.
Well, specifically fear, because it resonates with the amygdala.
Yeah, right.
And this is called infrasound, and this is what a lot of people have probably heard as Havana syndrome.
Okay. Well, that's what I chalked it up to, because I didn't know any of that stuff existed at the time, and I didn't bring my tinfoil hat, so obviously
the tinfoil hat might have protected you. You never know.
It may have, I don't know, but I didn't bring it.
But recently, they've been describing this kind of thing with ambassadorial staff, military staff, in other countries that are directed at, maybe an air base, an American air base or something like that. And it was first experienced by Americans in Havana, in Cuba, when they were there, just as people in the on the ambassadorial staff, and they got actually very sick, because this was a really early version of it, and they vomited for days, and they got really, really ill.
Wow, I mean, it's essentially it's a microwave.
Yeah.
Because when you microwave, your frozen chicken in the microwave, it's just sonically vibrating the tissue. It
excites
of the
those
meat.
Molecules. Yeah.
Exactly. You're just vibrating it, which heats it up and cooks it, basically. So they're basically pointing this weird weapon at you and inducing fear. Well, for lack of a better term, microwaving your brain.
And now the Russians have it, the Chinese have it.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure we have it.
Oh, we've had it for a long time. But anyway, that was bizarre. That was before I knew any of that kind of stuff existed, and before it was officially released that was something that they use. And now it's declassified, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But let's see. Did I cover? Oh, you had a question about radiation detecting and other oddities. I can't remember what the other oddities was. Oh, the only way I can describe being in this town and just visiting this town was like literally being in an episode of The Twilight Zone. It was the strangest feeling. It was the strangest vibe. And the people there were wonderful, beautiful, sweet people. They're very kind, loving, caring people. They're great people. The place had such a strange, ominous feel. Peaceful, but very strange. Very, very like, what planet am I on? Where am I? What's going on? Like, really, it felt that bizarre. Let's see. So, let's see. Did I cover everything? Strange way of an name. Shapeshifters. I think apart from the end of the trip, which would lead into the video, Gil, I'm pretty much coming to that part. I didn't know if you wanted to, if we had questions from anybody, or if you wanted to ask anything.
Yeah, we can throw it open to some questions from the audience if they have questions for you or for me. You did mention the local passersby. Was that the college kids that joined you for a midnight excursion?
Yes, that's them. That's the note on that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we do have some UFO footage that we're going to show a little bit later on that Gary took personally, and we have two versions. I'm going to show a short version that's I guess you've colorized it or upconverted it.
So
what did you do to it?
What I did was I just sort of brightened it a little bit so that you could kind of see it. It's photographed at night, so it's hard to see mountains and stars in the background. As you know, anybody can photograph something against a black background. You wouldn't know what the heck it is, but if there's something in the way in the background to show you the scale of something, you're able to get a better idea in your mind what this thing is. So
right.
I was struggling to keep, a mountain, a star, a cloud in the background, just so you could see the rate of speed that this thing is moving and everything like that. And the reason that it is brightened, that segment, is so that you can better see it.
Right.
Now, I've also made the original untampered with footage available to you as well.
And I've got that as well.
And you have about 38 minutes of it as well, going from when we didn't see anything to when we did see the whole thing, and then back to, just everything after the aftermath of it.
Yeah, and I've watched all that, and I can confirm that that's the way it is.
Right.
Where I have it queued up to is somewhere in the 14th minute, just because that's kind of where things start to get interesting. Mm-hmm. And I think people would rather hear us talk about, cool, spooky shit than watch too much of a...
Yeah, that's fine, sighting. And I can set it up too. Yeah. I didn't expect you to show that much of it, but I'm just the parts that you think are, the parts that are convincing to you, I would show. But let me know would you like me to set it up now?
We can. I was just going to focus on some things that Zach Price has mentioned. Old Native traditions, berserkers during the Viking Age, Vikings as bears, wolves, Native Americans even as deer or eagles and hawks. And he mentions the Hopi Native Americans. And one thing that I remember hearing when crop circles started appearing, that when Hopi elders saw crop circles, they became really distressed. And I think what I remember hearing at the time was that it had something to do with like the earth speaking back, or I guess you would call it maybe like Gaia. This meant something very significant to them. What it is, I'm not sure, but we did talk on a previous episode when Corey on Witch in Residence had done some remote viewing that I asked him about, some stuff in Antarctica, and people have been talking about Antarctica for as long as we've known that it's been there, I think. Mm-hmm. But when I've had Christopher O'Brien on, and he's basically the world's foremost authority on cattle mutilations, and two, he's probably the white guy, the white investigator, the white man that has had the most time spent on parts of Indian reservations that they just don't let white people go to,
Yeah.
And yeah, he's talked a lot about skinwalkers. I asked him a lot of questions. It's back in the Into the Fringe playlist if you want to check it out.
Oh, I'll definitely check that out. I'm very interested in that. To reverse engineer things that have been on these folks' land for literally thousands of years and try to add that to the evidence of what we're trying to figure out here it's immensely important.
It's crucial. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely crucial.
I'm still not really sure what to make of the Skinwalker Ranch TV show. It's kind of entertaining.
Yeah, I've been checking that out. Well, reality TV and those kind of things, they have to be entertaining.
Yeah.
For a reason. I mean, I'm not normally the complete obnoxious, toxic son of a gun that I am on Sundays. Right. I do that a little bit. It's cranked to 11 a little bit in order to entertain you guys a little. I do goofy, fun stuff. But, when it's all said and done, this kind of subject matter, it's pretty important. It's sometimes essential, to be cut and dry with it and to get as much out of the logic and the science and the facts that we possibly can without, jazzing it up with, rhinestones.
Right. Yeah. A lot of these stories are just scary enough just by themselves.
Sure.
But yeah, when you, one of the things, for instance, on that Skinwalker Ranch show, pretty early on, I think in the first season, was they found some petroglyphs. And I was like, oh, cool. So now they're going to go scour the rest of this, cliff and mountainside for more petroglyphs. And their complete lack of curiosity just blew my mind. Not only did they not look for more petroglyphs, but they just never went back to that place again. You know, it was a well-known place on the ranch, and it had really interesting stuff on it, like you were talking about, like are on a lot of these reservations and stuff that Chris went and saw. And, you know, I can't imagine having the intellectual disinterest to not look for more of those, you know?
You know, all I can say about that, Gil, is I forgot that I made that video, that first video, and it sat on a shelf. Why I didn't immediately start showing people and taking it around, I don't know. It's a weird feeling. I have more to talk about with that too, with the end of the Rachel trip. But you know, it's funny, as we're talking right now, I'm remembering another story that my father told me about. You know, my father at one point, he moved from Monterey to Apache Junction, Arizona, and bought a house out there.
I've heard of that.
Well, I bet you have, because it's the #2 UFO hotspot. And, it's literally like 2 miles away from Superstition Mountain. All you see in the background is this giant Superstition Mountain. And, you know, my dad, I can't remember whether he was like a member of an Elks Lodge out there or something like that, but he was out one night having dinner. And again, it's a small town. It's similar to Rachel. There's more people, obviously, but it's that same kind of feeling of it's on the outskirts. It's about 20 miles, 25 miles out of Phoenix, or, you know, about 10 miles outside of Mesa. And it's just kind of this quiet little area where people kind of retire. And he had befriended quite a bit of people there when he first moved there. And he knew, he saw a friend of his, this lady and her 16-year-old son, and they were eating dinner there. And he decided to go up and say hi to him and talk to him. And they were talking. They had mentioned to him about something that they had just seen a few weeks ago. And apparently they were driving home from that restaurant toward their home, which is, you know, directly under, you know, right at the edge of Superstition Mountain. And they saw this thing, this lump in the middle of this dirt road. You know, they have dirt roads going straight to where their homes are. There's not many street lights. There's not a whole lot of light. There's a little bit, but they see this thing laying in the road. It looks like some kind of creature just folded up.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just kind of sitting there. She honks the horn. It's not moving. And, you know, the kid's kind of, you know, like, what is that, Mom? I don't know. She opens the door, and this thing leaps out of its stance, jumps onto the hood of the car, and is staring at them. She slams the door and grabs her kid. They're screaming. And she says this thing crawled off of their hood, and this thing looked right at them through the side window of the car and was staring at them. It looked like a giant lizard with these red eyes staring at them, jumped over the hood of the car again and ran off into the shrubbery on the side of the road. My father said the 16-year-old kid told her son, 16 years old, told my father that he was so terrified he had to sleep in his mother's room for 4 nights. That's how scared he was. Mm-hmm. When you're a 16-year-old kid, a guy, you know, you kind of have a little bit of an ego, and you don't normally tell people that you're terrified and sleeping in your mommy's bedroom.
Right.
This kid was obviously mortified about something. Mm-hmm. And my dad said, I absolutely believe them. And, you know, that's an area that a lot of people have claimed there's some wild stuff going on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Superstition.
As Hound 3000 needs some hugs says, that must be pretty darn scary.
I would imagine. I don't know if I ever saw anything like that. I would hope I'd be armed or something, because I don't know. I've never seen anything like that before personally.
I was going to mention the second part of that the reptilian creature leapt all the way across the car in one go. I've heard that over and over and over. Not necessarily with a reptilian. Sometimes it's a Bigfoot or a dog man or some other kind of cryptid, but people say that all the time. about encounters that they've had with cryptids, that either it leapt over the road in a single stride, or it jumped the car in a single stride. That kind of thing is really common.
Yeah, that was the first I had ever heard anybody actually telling someone, like, like my family member or myself. It wasn't me, but it was my dad. It was the first time I've ever heard a personal story that wasn't on TV or on YouTube or something. But
and that reminds me, I wanted to ask you about the familial aspect of this Victorian haunted house that you were talking about earlier.
Okay. So I forgot to mention.
We buried the lead.
yeah, we did. So going back to the house that my friends and I were, trying to break into, essentially, and seeing this apparition in the window, I told my father about it. The day after, and he said, "That's that place down on Hoffman and Archer, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Your grandfather did the exact same thing that you did years ago, trying to break into that place with his friends. It was abandoned then too." And I'm like, that was bizarre to me. That was really really bizarre. I had imagined in my mind my grandpa doing the same stupid crap that I was doing. and then later on, that story to me was so inspiring. And I was like, I ended up writing that scene into a movie that I was directing. And we went to that house and we shot the scene at that house of us doing that. So it was kind of
that same house.
It kind of came full circle, and I ended up putting it into a movie, which was interesting. And nothing happened, of course, when we were there, and we had a crew there, and the home was owned at that point, and it's sort of the owners were interested to hear the story that I had told them, and then they were really interested when I told them that my grandfather had attempted to do the same thing.
Sure.
And I was, again, 15 years later, shooting a movie about it. So
is this a movie that we can find?
No, it is not.
Was it produced?
Yes.
But you're not allowed to talk about it.
No, it's one of my many projects.
Okay. We'll see it eventually, hopefully.
Maybe we'll see, but it's interesting. I'll drop you the footage one day.
Cool.
You'll enjoy it. It's sort of it's just that whole story came full circle. And what a strange coincidence, I thought.
Well, why don't we go ahead and set up the UFO footage we're going to watch?
Okay.
And if you can tell us about traveling to Coyote Summit and the recommendation from Kenneth, and just kind of walk us through from there.
Yes. Okay. So on our last day of the trip, early on in the trip, we said, where's the action? When does that happen? And we were recommended on Wednesday nights, go to Coyote Summit. You will see something. Okay, cool. So we planned our trip to end on a Wednesday. So on our way out of town, Coyote Summit is about 20 miles away from the town, on the way toward Vegas. And apparently that's where, you're supposed to be able to see some cool stuff on a Wednesday night. I don't know. That's what he said. So we took his advice, and I set up, we got there early. The sun was setting. I started to get some, sunset shots and kind of location shots for the documentary and everything. And at one point I noticed there's this massive glowing light, like massive, straight up in the sky, and it's just sitting there. And I'm keeping my eye on it as we're shooting, and it's getting darker and darker, and we're starting to see all the stars. Now, it's very hard to photograph stars on a camera of at least 10 years of age at this point.
Right.
This was, again, back in 2010, so it's kind of a standard definition 720 camera.
Mm-hmm.
But our eyes see the stars much better than these cameras do.
Right.
It only what's the word I'm looking for? It only proves my point how much brighter this thing is than the stars that you can't see in the shot. So we basically tracked this thing for a little while, and I just kept rolling on it. And this is what we got. This is the footage.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and show the enhanced footage first.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of circle back around, get some more questions and comments, and then we'll watch the longer version.
Okay.
For a little bit.
Did you want me to commentate it, or do you want to just play it for them?
I think that it has to be silent. I don't think that we can talk through the video.
Okay. Well, I won't say anything.
Although you can certainly try. I mean,
well, you feel free to play the audio. It's fine. I'd prefer if you did play the audio so you can hear my reaction to everything.
Yeah. Let me make sure that I did that.
I know we were kind of worried about that, but I don't know if I'm not worried about it at all. In fact, like I said, I prefer that they get as much information on it as possible.
Sure. So we'll do one of those there. That's what I was looking for. And I'm going to go ahead and move the giveaway stuff off just for right now. And then we'll post that back up there if people want to get into the information about the giveaway after this. So if you can, feel free to go ahead and talk us through. But this is the footage that you enhanced.
So right about this point, we started noticing this light appearing in the sky. And
this was like dusk?
Well, yeah, this is about twilight, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, there's a normal sized star there on the left, and that just shows you how large this thing is.
Right.
I believe it was blue in color. And at this point, we noticed something starting to move in the sky.
Not blinking. You see it? Come here and take a look. Right there. See that?
Oh yeah, look at that. It's moving, man. Look at that move.
It's moving fucking fast.
Very fast. You filming this?
Yeah, I gotta get the tripod.
Yeah, it's moving fast.
And this is total exclusive, first time ever.
Yeah, no one's seen this publicly. Here I am struggling to put the camera on the tripod because I did not want this to be jittery. I wanted it to be as clean as I could possibly photograph it.
While trying to keep some reference in the frame.
I'm trying my best, yeah.
Coming for us. Look at that.
Son of a bitch.
So when that's happening,
Coming for us.
are you trying to keep it in the center of the frame? Is it moving that much?
Well, what I tried to do was start it at the bottom corner. See the star right below right there?
Yep.
I'm trying my best to keep this thing in frame while zoomed in as far as I possibly can, but it's going so fast, it's leaving the frame by the time we catch anything.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I was a little bit caught off guard, and I'm trying my best to photograph this in the cleanest, stillest way that I can.
I have another star in the background of it so you can see how fast it's moving. Because if there's nothing in the background, then you can't tell. It just looks like I'm moving the camera, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the moon is beautiful too.
That thing is fucking hauling ass. It is way up there.
Yeah, and I can't find it too.
There was no sound.
Shit.
I mean, you could hear a pin drop. This place was so silent.
Yeah.
Like the other one is,
So you can see the clouds
there.
there.
Man, it is hauling ass.
I don't know what else it could
There's,
be.
Mike, there's no way that that's in space. There's no fucking way that that is in space. It's in our atmosphere, and it's moving fucking fast.
Part of my body language. I was fairly excited.
There's no sound, Mike. There's no sound at all. Look at that. Look.
Now we were discussing earlier. That's a still image. That's the speed that it's traveling in the sky right there.
Shit.
There's a star.
Oh yeah, you can see the
You
stars.
kind of see. Yeah. Now what happens is okay. That's a little bit better right there. That gives you an idea of where it is. Now it's traveling
That's the
straight
moon,
across.
right?
Correct. Yeah, that's the moon. It was traveling straight across at one point, and you'll notice it's starting to descend at a 45-degree angle.
No sound. Not one sound. Shit. Oh yeah.
But the one thing that was that I noticed about this is that the size of the light did not change. It didn't get any larger. It didn't get any smaller. So it wasn't. We were able to estimate that it wasn't moving away from us or toward us. It's descending down now, and it will continue to disappear behind that hill.
Shit. Can't get a closer shot there.
I think that StreamYard might be darkening.
Turn around and come get it.
It's possible.
Gil, if you want any other version of this, I'm more than willing to give you anything you want. If you want to analyze this or whatever.
No,
you want.
I don't think I'd be capable of analyzing it any better than just the naked eye. I don't have any of that kind of software.
Right. So we just basically waited for this thing to disappear. And there you can see a couple of little stars above there, and you can see the rate of speed that it's traveling.
Yeah, now it's coming right down onto the mountain.
Yeah, it ends up disappearing behind the mountain. And
That was a fucking full-on UFO right there, man. Well,
You guys are already talking about it in the past tense.
Yeah, that's
I know, right?
It is.
and then there it disappears behind the mountain.
That's right where the other thing was.
Apparently there was some other thing that I had seen, and it disappeared. Decided to see it go into the same spot, but that was bizarre.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a neat experience. It really was.
So I'm going to go ahead and play just for folks in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and put up the link to our giveaway for this evening. Again, if I can find it. I'm looking. And I just want to post it up for a few seconds so that we can get onto the other footage. Thank you. Anti-derivative Jill. So 5 minutes left to enter the giveaway at that URL. And I'll leave that up for a minute or so. And then we're going to take a look at the footage from, like I said, about 13 minutes, 38 seconds. Just to show people what it looked like for real, at the time. And one thing that I found kind of interesting about that footage, Gary, that you shot, is that with the longer footage, you see the moon rising, and then you can see this thing, in comparison to the moon versus the mountain. Mm-hmm. And so you can get kind of a relative size based on how far you are away, so this thing is pretty big.
Exactly. And that was the whole concept of me trying to get all that stuff in the shot, because I'm not even watching the UFO happening in front of me. I'm trying to set up a shot so that the footage can display an accurate of what's going on.
Yeah. And I remember the not the last UFO sighting that I had, but the one before that. I found myself in the moment and realizing this is going to be a really short encounter. I don't need to, put the 2 bags of groceries I'm holding down. I don't need to go for my phone or my camera. I'm just going to, be in the moment and observe it. And I'm really glad I did, because then I went inside, wrote it all down, and, I was every bit as much anticipating the kind of forgetfulness that you've encountered, with this. So let's go ahead and move to the other footage. Give me a sec here.
Make a fire and just watch the sky.
I just caught it changing color. That was awesome, Mike.
Just still on the.
I just caught it changing from orange to blue.
Yeah.
There it is again. This is cool, man.
This is beautiful.
Look at that. Mike, come here. Look at this monitor. Watch the light change color. Come on, change. It just did it 3 times. It changed to orange.
Now, Gil, I will say this.
There it is. Look at, see it?
The color change of the light is actually due to me moving in and out
Look at this.
toward
You don't see
the
one star
image.
in the sky.
So that's kind of
Except
debunked. I don't think it was actually changing color.
The
The way I discovered this is because earlier on in this footage, there was a car driving on the highway, and as it got closer to us, the lights kind of went from being a reddish to a bluish tint, and sort of pulsated back and forth. So I think that's
God, Mike,
the result of
right
it.
there on that
Yeah.
ridge, as we were looking at that moonrise.
Maybe we missed it.
It could have been one of those launch flares, but look how dominant that is. Look at that.
It's nice, huh? Wow. It's really nice shots.
We could see stars in the sky in this moment with our eyes, but the camera's not picking those up. Again,
Right.
it just shows you how distinctly bright that thing was and how massive it was. And it just sort of hovered there. I've never seen anything in the sky that large that was not moving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Starting
it's
to come
pretty
out
big.
now.
Yeah.
And again, it's not a satellite. It's not a plane. It doesn't have any aviation strobes.
No. So this is the unedited, unaltered footage. Well, none of it's edited, but this is the unenhanced footage.
Right.
It's raw, in other words.
It's going solid orange now.
And you know what's funny, Gil, is when I went back to see the original 38-minute clip that this existed on, as I went back before the footage of the action, I saw that it appeared before we really noticed it.
Uh-huh.
And it was there pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, sometimes these things, quote, put on a display for you. Unquote.
Right. Now, I kept thinking to myself at this point, at one point when we were driving away, the guy at the Little Inn told us to come out here. Oh yeah, you'll definitely see something. And I'm wondering if they're listening in at the Little Inn, which Pat, the owner, says, "Oh yeah, the military are definitely listening right now to us speaking." So I'm wondering, hey, these yokels are out here. Let's put on a little show for them and distract them with something.
Was this over the base?
This is 20 miles from town.
Or over the test site, I mean?
Correct. That's directly toward the test site. This was 10 miles from the road to the gate. And it was 20 miles from Rachel, Nevada. And that direction is right where the base is. And
so
this is even stranger.
Is an ARV, an alien reproduction vehicle?
Who knows? I don't know all those terms. I only know UFO.
You know, a back-engineered flying disc, one of ours rather than one of theirs.
Well, that's what I think it is. But here's what's really interesting. So when I rediscovered this video, I looked at the location of Coyote Summit on Google Maps. And when I saw it, I was able to sort of draw a line and retrace where this ball of light in the sky was and where it traveled in respect to the map. The mountain that it goes behind is within about 10 miles of where Lazar claims the S4 was.
Right.
And that was even more interesting to me. And I don't believe in coincidences, but that's a topographical fact. When I was able to locate where this was on
right.
Google Maps.
I'm gonna move forward just a little bit.
Yeah. And also Gil, or at least what I believe, this thing was not the thing that was moving across the sky and went down behind the mountain. Because when we went back to where this was, that thing was still there.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, that was another phenomenon that happened separately from this thing.
And there's the star in the background.
Right. That was a really bright star.
Not blinking.
This is an interesting comment. Gary, I feel you should gather these clips into a documentary of some sort.
Yeah.
Right. They are from a documentary. But it's a good idea.
Look at that move.
It's moving fucking fast.
There.
Yeah, this is pretty compressed. I think StreamYard is crunching those blacks down a little bit, dark colors.
Yeah.
But the enhanced footage gave you an idea of where it was and what it looks like.
Absolutely.
But again, I'll be happy to make this footage available to you for anything that you would like to do with it. If some of your viewers want to give a live review or whatever, totally happy to do that.
Wow. I have another star in the background of it so you can see how fast it's moving. Because if there's nothing in the background, then you can't tell. It just looks like I'm moving the camera, you know what I mean?
That was a still shot. Right. That's it moving.
So this is just sitting on the...
That's me. We position the camera. That's off. So this is still right now.
But this is on the tripod.
Correct.
Got it. Yeah, I think it's like the other one.
If that's a satellite, man, it is hauling ass.
I don't know. I don't think
Mike, there's no way that that's in space. There's no fucking way that is.
Now something else that I noticed
in our
Joe,
atmosphere
was that as I scrolled through the footage of the other ball of light covering the sky, it moved. Well, it wasn't moving
at all.
It shifted position in the sky along with the orbit of Earth.
Right.
So if you were to go back to that footage and you were to scroll through quickly, you'd see that still ball of light, and it would slowly move along the same direction that the moon is rising.
Correct.
So that was clearly outside of our atmosphere, and it was that bright.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
Man.
I got it.
But this thing,
I
don't know what this thing was. But I get the feeling that Lazar had taken his friends out to a certain area out here to show them event on a certain night. Well, I get the feeling this might have been somewhere near that area, within 20 miles of where he was bringing people and showing them these things going on.
Probably.
Well, it's done.
So
no sound.
Yeah, it went
We would have heard something, man.
I have a new
Right
camera.
now, even we would
I have a Black Magic Ursa 4.6K, and it has incredible dynamic range, and I would love to go back out there and photograph some 4.6K slow motion footage of something going on. And I'd be much more prepared if I ever go out there again. I am packing that camera with me.
Well, we do have some comments. People are agreeing with you that it definitely looks like something that's not supposed to be there.
Right.
And if you guys have any questions for Gary or for me, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes. And other than that, we'll go ahead and have a mod pop in and do the giveaway for these. And by the way, again, Gary, thanks for coming on, and thanks for offering the giveaways of these little Mayan flyers.
Oh yeah, no problem. I mean,
they showed them on the show Ancient Aliens at least once. I haven't watched Ancient Aliens since the first season because I'm just not that kind of a wide-eyed,
right.
Even though I'm an experiencer, I'm not a wide-eyed believer. I'm skeptical of just about everything.
You have to be. You have to remain. You have to at least ask yourself questions. Is this an airplane? What am I looking at?
Right.
What are the facts of this situation? There's only one thing that I regret about this footage is that I was not watching the footage. I had to watch the camera the entire time and the little tiny monitor to make sure whatever was happening, I got the best possible image that I could. Because there's nothing more aggravating than somebody having this footage of a strange phenomena and it's shaking and it's
out of the frame,
and out of the frame, and oh my gosh, look, it's changing color. Well, that was me zooming the lens in and out, and it's like,
right.
Well,
right.
Let's be scientific about this, and basically I came to the conclusion that I could not describe what the heck this thing was, and it was definitely not sticking to our laws of physics.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and bring on a mod, and we will give away these 2 little Mayan flyers. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Canadian Spider-Man.
Hello. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Canadian Spider-Man. How you doing, man?
Hey, Gary. Man,
nice
you
shirt.
are full of great stories.
Wild stuff, huh?
And you're believable
wild,
because
stuff.
You're genuine, too. So that makes it more interesting.
I do my best.
Cardinal Sin, Jill has prepared the wheel, so we're ready to go whenever.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Let's bring it on.
Okay, great. Yeah. Fantastic show, by the way, guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
It was
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I was listening the whole time. It was fantastic.
This has been a long time coming.
Yeah, we've been trying to set this up for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so everyone has been entered in the Wheel of Names.
All right.
Courtesy of Jill.
Thank you, Jill.
Excellent. As soon as I see that shared and pop up, then I'll bring it on.
Sharing it now.
Those are very cool.
System.
They're super neat. Very detailed too.
You didn't know that they'd made, blow ups of that and that they actually glided?
I didn't know that. No.
Wow.
I that's incredible. It's not surprising though.
There we go. The thing I always hate about this is that it makes me nauseous watching my head spin. But yeah, whenever you're ready, go ahead and spin it up.
All right, let's everyone in the chat, let's spin the Cardinal.
Oh, congratulations.
All right. Congratulations, Zach.
Zach Price. Nice.
All right.
Yeah, he's been in the chat the whole time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
So, Zach, I will need you to send me an email here and send me your mailing information, and I will email that to Gary, and he can get those out to you.
I'll get them out immediately.
And congratulations. And
that's a cool mug.
As usual, Canadian Spider-Man has his midnight to midnight mug. I think he's trying to tell me something.
Those are cool.
Well,
hey, I like that ring too.
You can get one
That's
of those
a
at
damn nice ring.
At gillstore.com.
Okay, I will pick one up. Here's my mug.
Ooh.
I got that from Rachel. They sell these at Rachel, Nevada.
Now, you know what's interesting that I haven't mentioned is that I saw at one of these damn UFO conventions. I don't remember if it was Lincoln, Nebraska, or if it was Eureka Springs, but there was a guy there who was an aviation writer who was doing a talk on Area 51, and this was way before it had been acknowledged by the government. And he had a patch of Groom Dry Lake, and it looked like a mission patch. And it showed like a space shuttle with kind of a windy, flight trajectory. And allegedly, Area 51 has the longest runway in the world because they used to have to land the SR-71 Blackbird there and stuff like that.
Right.
And so I got this patch. I wish I could remember the guy's name, but he used to be known as the Area 51 guy. And I had to go. I was leaving that night, and he had just finished his talk, and I was like, I won't be here tomorrow. Can I please buy one of these patches from you? And he's like, well, that one's like tacked up there. I'll have these for sale at my table tomorrow. And I'm like, I'm leaving tonight. Can I please buy one of these from you? You don't know how much this will mean to me. And he's like, okay, all right. So he sold me this like $5 patch, and then when I got home, I put it on my conspiracy jacket. Ari and I went to the 6th floor museum in Dallas, where the book depository is, and they've kept everything just exactly like it was. The sniper's nest is there. They've made a museum out of it. And it doesn't say anything anywhere about President Kennedy or an assassination. There's an X in the middle of the road in Dealey Plaza, and there's a plaque on the side of the road next to the X, like maybe 20 or 30 feet, like in the grass. And it says something like, I'm not going to get an exact quote, but it says something like, something of extreme national importance happened here and that's it. It's super vague and really weird. But
That is weird.
And then, you know, just calling it the 6th floor museum, and not acknowledging anything is even weirder. You know, they've got a gift shop, you know, maps, books, and then, you know, you can go visit where, you know, the president was killed. And they've got, you know, all the boxes and everything set up, and it's just really weird.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that you had a conspiracy jacket. I've got a patch for you.
Oh, do you?
I do.
Nice.
Check it out.
Ooh, Heaven's Gate away team.
So I'll put
That's
this in the
great.
mail for you as well.
Right on, brother. Right on.
That's awesome.
I got a bunch of those kind of patches. Maybe I'll dig around for those. I didn't know you had a jacket. Otherwise, I would have contributed a long time ago. But that's cool.
Yes, Zach, you won the Mine Gliders.
Mine
That's
Congratulations.
right, Jack. These are yours, my friend. Here they are, little castings of these guys.
Beautiful.
So, all right.
It wasn't Bill Sweetman. I don't remember the guy's name, but that's not unusual. There you go. Yeah,
Get 'em to focus
those are
here.
really cool. That's it.
Those are-
right there. Yeah,
Those are dang close to what was used in the show.
yeah. Actually, they are what was used in the show, as far as I know.
I don't think that that's true. I think they're re-sculpts, but they are darn good. This camera does not do the detail justice.
The one that you're holding in your right hand, that one there, yeah, that's the actual glider that they made out of,
focus. There we go.
yeah, now it's popping.
Yeah.
That's the glider that they sized up, and allegedly it glided and was what's the word, airworthy, but
It
not
flew.
that one. That one's
This is
not
some
the-
weird thing.
not the one that they got to fly.
Okay.
But that's probably what was in the Mayan tombs.
Interesting.
And we could, you know, we could go on all night, but we've gone over 2 hours, so it's time to let people eat dinner and all that kind of stuff. But thanks again, Gary, for coming on. This was a blast.
Anytime.
Had a really good time. We can talk a little bit off air
Sure.
about you know, the documentary and things like that. But I do want to thank everybody that showed up and was in the chat. We did have a record number of folks tonight, so that's Gary.
All right.
You beat Mike Barra.
Wow.
Yeah, you had a bigger crowd tonight than we've ever had. So
Wow.
thanks.
Well, hey.
Thanks again.
We'll have to get. You're welcome. We'll have to get Mike back to try to beat that record. So we'll keep beating it.
I'll pop off and let you guys wrap up, Cardinal. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot,
so much.
Spidey.
Bye, Canadian Spider-Man.
Glad
See you
to
later,
do it.
buddy.
Hey, really glad to hang out with you anytime, Gary.
Yeah.
Thanks for
good to
being
see
on the
you.
show.
Anytime.
Thank you for being on the show.
Anytime. You're welcome.
Actually, we did have Mike Barra and Gary on at the same time with Doomcock.
We'll get something else crazy going. We'll get somebody else on the show, and we'll top these numbers. Watch.
Actually, I think we're going to get Mike Barra back on.
Okay, good.
We're going to talk about his 2 books about Mars. And kind of what he did was he took Dark Mission, the book that we looked at last time, and he kind of separated them out into several different books. But then he you know, added to them, and so we'll kind of talk to him about that next time. But we'll definitely have you on for that.
Yeah, I'm always here for you, man. It's great to be here.
Well, I sure do appreciate it. And with that, it's Cardinal Sin, and we are out.